So around the world, the food and beverage ecosystem is undergoing profound transformation. So from plant-based innovations to AI-driven supply chain in Asia, the young entrepreneurs are actually redefining how we produce, consume, and experience the food. As the global challenges in climate change and food insecurity are intensifying, startups are stepping up with scalable, sustainable, and innovative solutions. And here in the UAE, this transformation is even more exciting. The UAE has strengthened its position as a global hub for innovation and entrepreneurship, and the food and beverage ecosystem here is thriving. Driven by young, digital savvy, and a strong appetite for forward-thinking ideas, UAE is leading the way in shaping the future of food and beverage sector, not just regionally, but globally. The energy, ambition, and vision here are unmatched. So in this context today, we will delve into this incredible space of entrepreneurship and startups. And I'm thrilled to share the stage with our panel of experts here today who are driving this transformation. So as we all are aware that UAE has become the magnet for food and beverage innovation. So Kenneth, in your view, what makes this ecosystem so attractive to the entrepreneurs today?
Yeah, thank you, Anshu, for putting me under the spotlight first. Also, thank you to the UAE Food and Beverage Forum for giving us this opportunity to be at least some inspiration to the young entrepreneurs. As everyone is aware, UAE is the home of more than 200 or nearly 200 nationalities. But what's more important, 50% of them are young. Also, we've seen a reasonably high population growth. We are seeing a population which has higher disposable income, so obviously there's room to spend. We're also seeing a population which has a digital penetration of 99%. And what's even more surprising, that at an average, they're spending close to 9 hours every day on the internet, nearly 3 hours on social media. And with this kind of a background or this kind of a demand parameters, it is only natural that there is a huge amount of opportunity that's getting created. And the fact that the UAE is like a test market for the region around, because of the sheer fact that you've got nationalities which have critical mass, whether they are expat Arabs, whether they're local Arabs, whether they are Western expats, or anyone. And the fact that if your product is able to succeed, you can reach out to nearly 3 continents, 400 cities, in a span of 6 to 8 hours, becomes an excellent magnet and an inspiration for any young entrepreneur to try his skills or his passion here. And more importantly, the access to basically private equity, as our colleagues from the Emirates Development Board said this morning, or the Emirates Growth Fund, that they're willing to support even ideas which are as much as, say, 10 million dirhams, okay, which is, again, access to capital, which is not an issue here. So when you have all the ecosystem surrounding you, which is supporting you, so it's only too natural that young entrepreneurs see this as a good opportunity or a good test bed to try out and invest their passion and their money to create a business opportunity.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. Alix, would you like to share your views on how this ecosystem is so attractive for the entrepreneurs today?
Sure. So, if I were to start my own business today, I would look at several things. One, I would look at a growing market. I want to have customers, right? Then I would look for an environment that is stable, that has a solid legal framework, and an environment in which I can find funding. On top of that, my key indicator would be how quickly do I find my product market fit. And the very good thing in the UAE is that, as Kenneth mentioned, you have about 200 nationalities. Where I come from in France, winning the French market is not enough. It's not because I win the French market that I win the German market or the Italian market. However, here, if you win with 200 nationalities, then you go. You have the GCC, and then you have the rest of the world. So to me, it's a fantastic playground to come and try something new, because if you succeed here, it's a good indicator for the future.
Thank you so much, Alix. So what we have heard about how this ecosystem is attractive, not only that, there is a diverse population, there is a young population, but also there are a lot of enabling policies from the government, which is actually making the business environment very conducive for the entrepreneurs today. So big retailers and food platforms are natural launchpads for startups. So how can companies like Spinneys and Talabat nurture and create more win-win partnerships with young innovators? Tom, would you like to share a few insights on this?
Yeah, firstly, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for staying on. I know everything's running a little bit behind. For Spinneys, we've actually been doing this for, well, we're now in our 6th year of the Spinneys Local Business Incubator Program, which was specifically set up to help small and even micro businesses to get access to the opportunity to get a foothold in retail and have an opportunity, a low-cost opportunity to start to build their brand. We've now been able to launch over almost 40 companies into our stores and help them to launch not only within the UAE, but actually across the region, and even across Europe and into the States as they've started to really build their businesses. So this has been a hugely important part of what we do. And in terms of how we're supporting the young, well, the youngest applicant we've had, the youngest person who's come to the sort of the Shark Tank stage to pitch was 4 years old. So we're really focused on that.
Wow, that's amazing.
We've actually now extended it on, so as well as what we're doing for genuine entrepreneurial businesses, we're trying to drive this through creating a spirit of entrepreneurship within schools. Through our Farm to Table program, we've engaged now with 100,000 school students in the UAE on the importance of food, and we've extended that program out to now do a young version of the local business incubator program in partnership with Trucity. That's culminated earlier this year in 5 14-year-old or 12 and 14-year-old school children successfully pitching and winning, first of all of them an internship within Spinneys, but the one overall winner will actually be getting their product launched into Spinneys stores early next year.
Thank you so much. So Alix, you have Talabat Mart. So how are you supporting and creating the win-win partnerships for the startups?
So Talabat was a startup not that long ago, and Talabat Mart has been 4 or 5 years in the country, so we still have in our DNA some things that we can help founders with. We understand the need to be fast, to be agile, to scale, and so it happens quite often, actually, that we meet with startups and think about different questions. One question is a go-to-market. How do I go about selling my product? Should I go in physical retail? Should I go online? And the good thing with Talabat Mart is that we have dark stores. And essentially, when we discuss with entrepreneurs, we can start with one, pilot it, and then scale in the whole country. We're also really good with understanding what works in terms of ads, in terms of how you play on the app with the banners and stuff. So we can try and guide them into going for the right category, the right moment on the app. And I think this knowledge is key to their fast development and also fast pivot if they need to.
Thank you. So Tom, from the corporate perspective, what do you think? Because you mentioned right now like how you are supporting these startups. So from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges when collaborating with startups, whether related to speed, scalability, or compliance? And how can both startups and established players like yourselves can work together to overcome these challenges?
I think the biggest challenge we've probably faced overall has certainly been more in the compliance and the regulatory perspective. So whilst it's been fairly straightforward for us, we've often found a lot of the manufacturers, the entrepreneurs, haven't necessarily understood what's required to actually scale up their business and go from something that can be very cottage industry into something where they need to have professional manufacturing facilities, and what are the different trade licenses. So that's been quite a challenge. It was a little bit of an education for us as well at the start, but actually as we've learned, we've been able to provide and continue to give much more focus and much more support and investment into giving that guidance, and that's really helped us to move things on. What we've also found, though, and I think this goes to some of the points Kenneth's already made, is this is a country that is, is founded by many entrepreneurs, by people who are visionary, by a lot of family businesses, and there is a very much a can-do attitude, and that spreads across government as well. And we found actually as the program's built that we've had a lot of government recognition from it, that actually government's been willing to engage with us and become far more supportive and far more open-minded to giving some of the entrepreneurs we're working with the opportunity to try things and be a little bit, more relaxed in terms of some of the regulations to get them going and then have the chance to become fully compliant a little bit down the line.
So I think the partnership and the mentorship goes hand in hand.
Absolutely.
In order to help them overcome these challenges. So Alix, again, the same question for you, like what kind of challenges you think these startups are facing and how are you helping them overcome? When it comes to speed, agility and scalability.
Yes.
Alix?
Me? Yeah, sorry, I understood Kenneth. So we have a couple of discussions because everyone wants to be fast, right? And we as a company have our own processes, our own rules to bring product to the market, and we want to test. We do a lot of coaching with entrepreneurs, and not only because we want them to sell, through our app, we're always interested into bringing innovation to our customers. And we know that most people, when they go on Talabat, of course, they come for the usual grocery basket, but they're always interested in trying something new. So it's always good for us. It's really a win-win relationship, to understand what's going on, to pick up on the trends, to understand also the pace of innovation, and to understand what's going to stick. Because very often, you have some fades, you have some brands that do great stunts, but for us, actually, that's not necessarily how we build our company. So I'm also always eager to meet entrepreneurs who are able to see, if possible, in the medium to long term, and build something real with us. Because then the relationship becomes a real partnership. We can think about them in terms of trends, some hyper-local assortment, and then they become real partners. They're not entrepreneurs anymore,
Thank you. So usually when it comes to startups, the access to capital remains a pain point. So Malachy, from your experience, what models such as venture capital or private equity or development funds work best for the F&B innovation? And how can funding be made more accessible to youth-led food and beverage ventures?
Thank you, Anshu, and good afternoon, everybody. Capital obviously is vital, but I would also say that capital formation is even as important, or capital structure. And when we talk to clients over in a due diligence process, sometimes we find that the wrong capital structure is there from the beginning. So, of course, venture capital is there for the early stage for funding that, what can be sometimes a very protracted and indeed risky, obviously, research cycle. But also, I would say to entrepreneurs, think about not just the next 12 months, but the next 24 or 36 months, and ask yourself, what would you like that to look like? And we've seen situations where various entrepreneurs have signed up to different types of capital arrangements, and quite honestly, they're quite disadvantageous, particularly when they get into that accelerator stage. So capital structure is really important, and from a private equity perspective, private equity are there really when you're at cash positive or very close to it, and they see that scaling opportunity, and certainly at that stage you would be expected to have kind of gone beyond the pilot and proof of concept, and you already have retailer relationships. The development piece is quite interesting, and what we're seeing is a couple of, beyond the three pillars, which essentially is government, industry and capital that drive F&B innovation. When it comes to what governments can do and what we've seen in a development capital context is kind of a blended model where you would see equity-backed guarantees, and these are essentially where there would be a percentage of the equity guaranteed, and that helps to catalyze or attract in private investors in some cases, or strategic investors at a very early stage. It can make them feel quite comfortable in terms of the overall capital mix. So I would say very much look at your plan. Where do you want to take the business? And get the right capital from the get-go. And the last thing I would say is that venture capital has had a major correction in the last few years, and within that, ag tech and food tech has not come out well. But I think we're at a time of great change, and a lot of those funds are back now in the market, albeit with smaller maybe amounts to invest. But the need for this sector and the need for this innovation is more than ever.
Thank you. So beyond funding, mentorship and market access, they often decide whether a startup sinks or scales. So what do you think investors and industry leaders and even government bodies can play a role in providing that support, Malachy? Yeah.
To me. So in terms of, are we looking, just so I understand your question properly?
So beyond funding,
yes,
there is also mentorship and market access.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, the best type of capital is capital that comes with something else. So that's why strategic capital is key. And the mentoring piece is important. But we would say if you look at the supply chain, the closer you can get to the mouth of the consumer, the better. So retailers have a really pivotal position, and we heard what Tom has had to say here. And from a retail perspective, it's a phenomenal seedbed to tap into this resource, if you like. And certainly capital that can open doors, that can basically provide more than just a check, that can actually provide industry insight, can open key relationships, co-manufacturing, distribution agreements, or indeed get you onto the supermarket shelf. Any of those relationships are really valuable, and the capital they might provide would really need to be looked at very different than investment or financial capital.
So, Tom, from your experience, how do you would you like to share some insights in terms of how do investors and industry leaders and even government bodies can provide that support in case beyond funding to help these startups?
Yeah, I mean, this is basically the very fundamentals of the of what I set out to do when I created the incubator program. Spinneys, me, I'm a simple shopkeeper. I'm not a venture capital guy, so we didn't want to be involved in equity or anything like that. We wanted to make sure we were creating a platform that was going to make it easy for people to learn in a safe space and to make some mistakes. So the mentoring is very much one of the founding principles of what we do with the incubator program. And depending on the nature of each and every incubator that we launch, we tailor and adjust what we need to do. It can be something as simple as, right, do they know actually how to be using social media effectively and understand the difference between how to communicate to a customer that's going through the TikTok platform versus Instagram versus Facebook, because it's a different consumer wanting stories posted in a different way. You need to explain in a different format. So we can provide very basic guidance on how to do that. Sometimes it can be more about the technical side, and we'll give guidance again on that. So really, we've been able to tailor it through that. What we've also found is actually as the program has expanded and become bigger and more famous, more businesses as third parties have wanted to get involved. So we have actually got those private equity guys who now come in and said, look, we can do funding. We said, okay, we can make introductions. But we've also got manufacturers of packaging who said, okay, well, look, can we come and help and do a masterclass for you? Or there's been so many other people who wanted to get involved and see how they can support. It's becoming... I hate the phrase, but it is becoming its own ecosystem of supporting the incubators. And then what we're seeing from that is actually the amazing loyalty we get from these incubator suppliers as they go through and see what we're giving them versus what is available or what is not available elsewhere in the marketplace, means that they're actually in turn becoming mentors themselves and they're taking on support and guidance to the next round of incubators and giving their experience, sharing that with them so they can say, this is how you're going to get the most out of the support you get from Spinneys.
So thank you, Tom. You brought a very interesting perspective of providing experiential experience. That's very important. And another one in terms of guiding the startups and the entrepreneurs on communication, because having the right narrative really helps in building the brand as well as scaling up their businesses. Thank you so much. So Alix, from your point of view, any insights you would like to share that how corporates like yours can provide support to the startups beyond funding?
So beyond, beyond everything that was said, which I fully agree with, I think, the challenge for an entrepreneur is to go from a fantastic idea to a product that sells. And my belief is that with online commerce, platforms like Talabat, you can actually A/B test all day long. So you can put your product online, you can change the color, you can change the typo, you can change everything until you find where customer clicks. And so I believe that with the tech infrastructure that we have, we can actually use it and leverage it to find a good route to market for entrepreneurs. And this is quite unique. And I think this is a shift that we're seeing also in terms of product launches from physical retail to e-commerce, because your ability to adapt and to react is really demultiplied. So for an entrepreneur, I think those platforms are probably the first step they should take and then go beyond.
So I think if anybody wants to learn in terms of the route to market and the agility and the speed to provide delivery, I think they can refer to Alix and she can give you some more insights about it. So universities are actually brimming with the food tech ideas, from lab-grown proteins to smart packaging, but very few actually make it to the market. So Kenneth, in your viewpoint, what's missing in bridging research to commercialization?
See, traditionally, if you look at the universities here in the UAE, the focus was on agri-tech, and very natural, because of the arid conditions. I think the priority was to basically start food security and to make sure that at least there's food production. So I think initially academia focused on that. And as Malachy said, that it's not very easy to get to be commercially viable in an environment where you're competing with the rest of the world in terms of products. So I think it's only recently, in a couple of years back, and I think that's something that we are seeing, is where universities have started to start focusing on food tech. And basically it's from food production, also food processing. And so food tech is where the focus has now shifted. And with food tech, it's where companies have started to get interested, especially companies like us, like Barakat. And I think the UAE F&B group has done a stellar job by bringing what you call as the cohort together. Drawing inspiration from what's happening globally, whether you look at the MIT Agricultural Technology Initiative, or you even look at Singapore and what they've done in terms of the food innovation hub, and of course, Switzerland, in which Ian spoke about in the session before, in terms of the Food Tech Valley and the Food Innovation Hub, where they're bringing it together. So I think what the UAE F&B group has done is brought companies like us, manufacturers, and academia together. And as a process, what we did was we selected 2 university students. We gave them a project, what we call as a challenge statement. So they're solving for real-life consumer needs. So we gave them a challenge statement, and we're very pleased to inform you that, one of the students, which is Dr. Salma Zabi, a local Emirati, she developed what we call as the gaf, which is a very local cultural plant in the UAE, developed a gaf shot and a gaf smoothie for us. And I think these are what we call as baby steps. I'm sure when you talk of the work that MIT did or what Switzerland did probably many decades ago, I'm sure they would have started the same way. Okay, so I think from a future point of view, I think the ministry and the UAE F&B group are on the right direction, bringing academia and industry together, and with the likes of the VC funds. I think if they all come together as one innovation hub, I think we can start seeing a lot more successful outcome. And successful outcomes will drive even more interest in academia. And then we start seeing what we call as success in this area, which we've not seen till now.
And we really see an entrepreneur at heart because we see every other day new innovations from Barakat. So thank you so much for supporting the ecosystem and sharing your insights. I'll just open for the audience for one question or two questions before we get into the rapid fire of questions with the panelists over here. Anyone in the audience has any question for the panelists? Okay, then I will ask Malachy, if you had to give one piece of advice for startups to future-proof their business, what would that be?
Well, I think it's back really to looking at your capital requirements and not go too early to the market. Some cases we've seen that more time is needed in the research or proof of concept stage, and that's often funded or part funded by government incentives or grants, or indeed various hubs, as we see here in UAE. So I suppose my salient point is that look for capital that can do more than just provide capital.
Yeah, that's a great point because it's very important to have the proof point concept and prototypes right from the beginning. Tom, what are some of the common mistakes you see startups make when they're trying to break into retail? And a follow-up question, what advice you give to F&B startups looking to succeed in retail space?
Right. Golly, that could be a long list, how many mistakes. I think one of the most important things, particularly in a startup environment, and when you're trying to bring something innovative to the market, is to make sure that it truly is innovative. We typically get about 200 applications to the incubator scheme every year. 40% of them are probably artisan coffee or a protein bar. And it's just instantly, right, we're not going to look at that. We've got enough of those. There is nothing that is going to stand out, that is going to be disruptive, and you're trying to go into a very crowded area against some very, very well invested big firms. So we make a lot of play on having products that are truly disruptive. I could see Daria Abid, she's one of last year's cohort, bringing a product that simply didn't exist in this market. These amazing, natural, proper stock bases. Everything else has been a sort of a nasty powder, and already we're seeing, thanks to what she's done, the vision that she's been doing something disruptive, some truly successful performance in our stores. And we were saying before, come on, we've got to get you into other retailers. So that's probably the single biggest thing is truly look inwards and understand, is this something that stands out as different?
Yeah, it's very important how you're placing the product into the market space for it to be successful, to reach the right audience. So Kenneth, if you had to give one piece of advice to young innovators entering in the F&B space today, what would that be?
The young entrepreneurs are very passionate. I don't think they're open to listening so easily. But I think one thing that we could probably, which could be very universal, is to solve for real consumer need.
Yeah.
I think entrepreneurs should really focus on that. And valuations, profits will follow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think if we can just solve for even one single consumer need, I think you're in business.
I think that's a great point because if we have the right consumer insight and the right recipe, we can really make success. Alix, would you like to share any advice one advice if you have to give to young entrepreneurs, if they have to venture into the F&B space or even as a delivery platform?
So I'd say the customer is king. So don't wait for too long. Don't wait to have the perfect product, or at least the perfect product in your mind. Go out there and test it ASAP, because only there will you know if your product will have an impact. You can make the best plans in your room in front of your computer, but as long as you don't have a buyer to give you some feedback, there is nothing that you know.
I think that's a great point. Let's give a big round of applause to our panelists for sharing their experiences, insights, and expertise with us. So from the UAE's dynamic entrepreneur ecosystem to the game-changing roles of funding, mentorship, collaboration, and innovation, one thing is clear. The future of food and beverage industry is being shaped by bold, visionary ideas and partnerships. The passion, energy, and commitment we have witnessed today throughout the day truly highlights why this country is at the forefront of innovation and entrepreneurship. To all our young innovators and aspiring entrepreneurs in the audience, this is your moment. The ecosystem is really rallying behind you through funding, mentorship, and partnerships. So take that leap, dream big, push boundaries, and embrace collaboration to unleash your full potential into exciting opportunities. So let's all continue working together to innovate, connect, and share ideas by creating a space that inspires, empowers, and nurtures the next generation of innovators. So with that, we close this session. And before going, can we have one more round of applause for our panelists and the amazing audience who chose to stay with us till the end of the day? Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.